Welcome to episode 48 of the Great Code Podcast, a place where we decode the steps to success on and off the field. I'm 11-year NFL veteran, three-time Pro Bowler Donte Whitner, alongside Bay Area TV and radio analyst Mr. Rod Brooks. Rod, fresh off of vacation. How you feeling, Rod?
Feeling refreshed, feeling ready for some football, my brother. It's football season, man. I was down at Niner Camp, been down there for a handful of the practices. Pads is popping. It's that time, brother.
A lot of injuries happening.
Well, you know.
A lot of injuries happening. We'll get into that.
We are talking about the Niners.
Definitely. We'll get into that. And the topic of today's episode is called DEEBO'S Back, Shanahan's Secrets, and the 49ers Injury Deja Vu. Deebo Samuel is back. But once again, injuries are dominating the 49ers storyline. Ricky Pearsall is out for the season. George Kittle and several young players are sidelined. Questions remain about Nick Bosa's health. Kyle Shanahan suffered serious injuries in a car accident that stayed quiet for nearly 2 weeks. And despite changes to the practice schedule, the 49ers appear to be dealing with the same problem they face every year. Today, we're separating bad luck from bad decisions and asking who should be held accountable. And our episode topics include, what should the 49ers expect from Deebo Samuel? Did the 49ers fail Ricky Pearsall? The 49ers first round pick problem? Same injury story, different year. Is the substation causing injuries? Why was Kyle Shanahan's crash kept quiet? Should the 49ers reconcile with Brandon Ayuk? Raheem Morris five-man fronts and disguise coverages? Is Nick Bosa healthy? And is Renardo Green a number one corner? Should the 49ers add Joey Bosa or Veta Vea? The Rams are old too. And are training camp fights good or bad? And let's get into segment one. Deebo's back. Like Jeezy said, your boy is back. What should the 49ers realistically expect from Deebo Samuel now?
Well, let me say this. Saw Deebo, laid eyes on him for the first time yesterday in the Niners' third padded practice so far this training camp. Man looks different. Now, because we are talking about football, I'm going to talk about Deebo's body type. The dude I saw a couple of years ago is not the dude I saw yesterday as we tape this. Midsection, and Deebo had his jersey up, and you could see his entire midsection. Midsection-wise, Deebo's slimmer. Watching him on the football field in a couple of practices, he's fluid, he's fast, he's quick. So I just want to get that out there. It looks like a different Deebo to me and to others, I will suspect. Here's how I saw Deebo being used in practice yesterday. Saw him in the backfield, saw a wide receiver screen, saw him in motion, even tried a pass play. Wasn't able to get the pass off. But my point is that Deebo was used like Deebo in a lot of ways. And to me, this is going to be a much different situation because I believe the understanding between both parties, Deebo and Kyle Shanahan, just to personify it, is you're not the number one wide receiver. We're not going to force feed you the ball. We're not going to use you as a number one wide receiver. We're going to use you like Deebo Samuel in all the ways I just mentioned what I saw in practice yesterday. Plus, he's going to return kickoffs. This thing is going to work. You wish Ricky Pearsall were there, but I think you can draw a straight line from Ricky Pearsall's injury, that I'm sure we'll get to in a moment, to Deebo Samuel coming back on a $7 million contract and willing and able to do whatever the Niners need him to do.
I expect Deebo Samuel to be all pro this year. People are judging the Deebo that they last saw, not the Deebo who was coming back with something to prove. And the biggest difference is his body. Mm-hmm. Deebo has reported in the best shape of his career. That means he's not just dangerous. He becomes almost impossible to stop for 4 quarters. This is like giving a heavyweight fighter one more title shot after everybody says he is finished. You do not get the relaxed version of Deebo. Yep. You get the most dangerous version. And already in championship shape. Ricky Pearsall is out. Brandon Ayuk went AWOL. And Deebo knows Kyle Shanahan's system inside and out. That means touches,
Yep.
and a lot of them. Screens, slants, jet sweeps, backfield carries, red zone opportunities. He was traded away. He heard that decline talk, and now he is back where he became one of the most feared weapons in football. He does not need 1,500 receiving yards. If he gives you 1,000 through the air, 300 to 400 on the ground, and double-digit touchdowns, he is right back in the all-pro conversation. This is not a reunion tour. This is Deebo stepping back into the ring in the best shape of his career, with everybody who doubted him sitting ringside. I expect an all-pro revenge season from Deebo. Do you agree, Rob?
I don't believe his numbers are going to be as high as you mentioned, but yeah, this is a revenge season for Deebo. And again, he's going to be used in all the ways that Deebo Samuel can be dangerous. And when you have a little bit of Deebo doing a lot of stuff, he's impossible to deal with. So I completely agree with you on the type of play we are going to get from a motivated and physically different Deebo Samuel.
And with Isaac Garendo being out, with Kaline Black dealing with an abductor injury, with George Kittle being iffy, he's going to get the football and get the football a lot.
Yep.
And what people don't know out there, Rod, is when you feel unwanted as an NFL free agent and you sit out on the street for a long time and you have to go through the solitude and the isolation and the phone calls aren't coming because you're not wanted like you previously were, it does something to your mental. And that's why we saw him put that work in and that grind in. And the 49ers saw what we saw. They saw Deebo grinding. They see when he lift his shirt up, you see them slices up under there. They know what that means. The guy is only 30 years old. And I believe that this is his all-pro revenge season.
It's a perfect situation for Deebo. We wouldn't be talking like this if Deebo were with, I'm just naming teams, if we were with the Cowboys, if we were with the Texans, because of Deebo's familiarity with the offense and his kinship with Kyle Shanahan. But watching practice yesterday, and just saying to people as we're all watching, I'm like, Deebo got his shirt up on purpose. Like he know what he's doing, and I noticed. That's why I mentioned it. He's a different looking dude.
Yeah, and everybody gonna have to sit ringside and watch him knock out and become the world champion again. Moving on to our second segment, a guy who Deebo is probably going to replace a lot of his production, Ricky Pearsall, with the PCL injury, with the amount of times he dealt with it last year and even leading into this year's training camp. Did the 49ers fail Ricky Pearsall by not requiring PCL surgery at the end of the season?
Well, it's just my observation. It seemed to me that they were trying to avoid what has become, unfortunately for Ricky Pearsall, the worst case scenario. To have surgery on a ligament where the recovery time is close to a year to be back fully healthy. They wanted to avoid that because if he'd had surgery in January, then it wipes out the season. Now, of course, the season got wiped out, but it seemed to me, just as a casual observer and not a medical doctor, it seemed to me that both parties, because I do think that the Niners, in conjunction with Ricky Pearsall and his people, decided that the best course of action for them was to see if they could rehab the injury, avoid surgery, and hopefully it responds when they got to the heavy lifting of camp. And obviously that didn't happen. So I don't know if the Niners failed Ricky Pearsall. It just seems to me that both parties were trying to avoid the disaster scenario that we eventually saw, which means we're not going to see Ricky Pearsall this year, and who knows how long it's going to take for him to get in shape to be ready for the 27 season.
We cannot prove that from the outside. But the timeline raises serious questions. He injured the PCL in September. He aggravated the same knee in December. The swelling returned in training camp. Now he's having season-ending surgery. A grade 2 PCL is not a bruise. It is a partially torn ligament with looseness in the knee. So even if the pain improves, that does not mean the ligament is ready for cutting, stopping, and NFL contact. Did returning early guarantee that it became a grade 3? No. But it may have left the knee unstable and more vulnerable to the next hard plant or collision. There are two possibilities. Either the grade 2 was rushed and became worse, or the original injury was more severe than they first diagnosed. Without the original imaging and stress testing, nobody outside the building can honestly know. That is why players are taught to get an independent examination. The team has a medical process. The players need a second opinion, focus only on his body and his career. Earlier surgery would not have guaranteed a 2026 return,
Right.
but it may have preserved part of the season. They may have cleared the pain before they cleared the ligament. Trying to save a few weeks of the season cost Ricky Pearsall an entire year. So that's where I'm going to go with it. And I believe that when I looked up the PCL injury and how it's connected to the shin and how it's mostly a torn ligament, after that September injury, knowing that it was a torn ligament, if you really want to protect the player, you give him surgery. You don't rush him back in 4 to 6 weeks because that takes having a brace on the knee, not being able to bend it so that that ligament can come back together. So whether it was the 49ers, whether it was Ricky Pearsall and his team, somebody failed the kid here. And this could possibly end up as one of those stories where you saw glimpses of his talent,
Yeah.
and he'll probably never get the opportunity to be a number one receiver again
Yeah.
after this surgery.
I mean, just on a human level, I feel bad for the cat because I'm sure right now he is not in a good place. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's, while dealing with the injury and the upcoming rehab, I hope that, he's understanding of what's happening, but he's not in a deep, dark place. But as an athlete, and you tried to come back and you tried to help the team and you can see where things are going, for you not to be around, I'm sure it's just a horrible, horrible feeling. So I just feel bad for him on a human level. On a football level, people got to stop with the injury-prone thing, okay? Yes, his career has been marred by injury. First and foremost, he got shot through no fault of his own. The PCL thing, to me, that's a football injury. Substations and all that nonsense, be damned. But I just think about the dude I saw week 1 against Seattle. 4 catches, $120, something like that. A key catch late in the game that ended up helping the Niners on their eventual game-winning touchdown. Seeing that Ricky Pearsall in this Niner offense, and again, it was without, he was the best receiver. Seeing him in this offense, you're like, I see the vision. And for him not to be a part of what the Niners have cooking right now with Deebo coming back, I just feel bad for the kid, just like I said, on a human level and on a football level, that he can't be a part of something that he's worked his entire life for.
And that leads us right into segment 3. Another first-round pick with high expectations. And though it's not his fault, though it's an injury concern, he's not out there to help the team and become a cornerstone wide receiver for Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy.
Well,
So how have the 49ers stayed contenders despite so many first-round misses?
Well, because they hit in the later rounds on guys like Fred Warner and George Kittle, just to name a couple. Finding gold in Brock Purdy, trading for Trent Williams, trading for Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, Nick Bosa, even with his injury history, Nick Bosa has been a net positive. But to me, it's the amalgamation of all the things I just mentioned. While they haven't been, superstars in terms of first-round draft picks, they've done enough in later rounds and they've done enough in draft picks, and they've been able to fill in around the edges to where it's been able to work for them. But you got to hit on these first-round picks. Deshaun Stribling, who having a chance to watch in camp, looks the part, looks the real deal. I'm sure we'll talk about him later. But Deshaun Stribling's got to hit because, and I've said this before, the tip of the spear for the Niners very early on is going to be the veterans, all the guys and more that I've mentioned. But at some point in time, hopefully sooner rather than later as this upcoming season progresses, Stribling and Height and Black and others have to come along and do their part so the vets aren't doing as much heavy lifting and they don't wear down as the season goes on.
I think that they've been able to stay afloat because they found stars everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, Javon Kinlaw, Trey Lance. Very little long-term return for premium draft capital. Ayuk produced, but that relationship collapsed. Pearsall availability has always been a concern. Michael Williams is still too early to judge. The 49ers have not drafted poorly overall. They've drafted poorly where mistakes cost the most. Fred Warner, George Kittle, and Brock Purdy, you're right, covered up a first-round problem that would have destroyed most teams.
Yeah.
Day 2, day 3, and undrafted players cannot rescue the 49ers forever. And that's where these guys, even with the Trent Williams that you mentioned, trading for Trent Williams, the Dre Greenlaws of the world, who wasn't a high pick, who became one of their best players and second best linebacker. I think that's where they've been able to make up for the misses in the first round. But you can't guarantee that every year, right?
No, not at
You
all.
can't guarantee that these guys are going to come in and become gems. So at what point do you run out of luck?
You run out of luck when you run out of Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle to start. I'm just going to stay on the offense. No, I mean, the Niners, I don't know if they've necessarily been whistling past the graveyard, but there has been some fortune involved. But, I think of a guy like Nick Martin coming in his second year, all right? He's getting a lot of run with the first-team defense. Like, you're looking for a step up from him this year, running with Dre and Fred Warner in that linebacker room. You're looking for Upton Stout to take another leap this year. You're looking for Malik Mustafa to take a leap this year, and we'll get into the defense and the defensive backfield in particular as we keep rolling with this thing. But you're going to need, as I mentioned, it's not just the rookies, but it's the second and third year guys too. You're going to need them to sooner rather than later start doing some of the heavy lifting that the vets, the guys that we mentioned, that they've been doing now for the past couple of seasons. So
you mentioned Nick Martin. Have you seen much from Pearsall? How's Pearsall looking out there?
I haven't seen much from him. I saw him make a play yesterday, and I could have sworn I saw his already long arms extend to make a play.
Go gadget.
Yo, man, dude could scratch his calf without bending over. But I haven't seen him, in terms of getting a lot of run with the first and second team defense. It looks like that they're going to, and I get it. It looks like they're going to bring him along slowly, and I don't. My own personal opinion, I don't see that there's any shame in that. And I don't think that's necessarily a negative reflection on him at all.
I think that Grayson Halton could eventually develop into one of these guys that become a diamond in the rough. When you look at his makeup, when you look at his college film, when you look at his college production, he's one of those guys that jump off the chart. And for whatever reason, he wasn't drafted as high as you would expect. So I think that he could become one of those diamonds in the rough and cornerstone pieces for this 49ers defensive line. Leading into our fourth segment, why are the injuries piling up again, Rod?
Well, I mean, I think the Ricky Pearsall thing is the Ricky Pearsall thing. I can't attribute that, and won't, to substations or Niner injury history. I think that is a football injury that unfortunately has happened to a guy that people are calling injury prone. Mike Evans, seeing him yesterday, his quad injury is not serious. He was moving around. No one seems to be overly concerned. Kalen Black's adductor. I don't have a ton of information on it. I don't know if that's a training camp injury, if that's a young guy, rookie in training camp injury or what have you. Kirk's calf, he was on a side field yesterday. To me, that's a training camp injury. The same thing with Deshaun Stribling's hamstring. He didn't practice. He was on the side field, but he was moving well. Those are the
Jordan
big ones.
James?
Yeah, but, okay, to me, that's a camp injury. Fred Warner, who, by the way, he and Dre Greenlaw are just wrecking shop, dog. They are acting like absolute maniacs out there, and everybody is following along with them. They're loving the injury. They're loving the tempo and the speed and the violence that they're bringing, both on offense and defense. But that's Fred Warner trying to punch the ball out. James turns to avoid getting the ball punched out, and it's football, and he breaks his ribs. To me, that's football. That's just training camp. So I understand when Niner players get injured, no matter how big or how small, people immediately, because of the Niner injury history, go, well, it's got to be this, that, or the third. I just see it as football, bro. I can't go down those rabbit holes of substation theories and they got to fire the director of training or what have you. I'm just like, yo, man, it's football. It's a violent sport. Shit happens.
At some point, you have to stop calling it bad luck. Pearsall, Kittle, Kirk, Kaline Black, Garendo, Mustafa, and several more. Some injuries are random. Football is a violent sport. But when the same problem shows up every year, it becomes a pattern. So the real questions here are they drafting and signing too many players with medical concerns? Are rehabilitation and return to play decisions being rushed? And yes, the organization says the substation proximity was independently tested. But here is the problem. The injuries are still piling up. So maybe the testing cleared the substation concern, but did it not explain the organizational pattern? At some point, you have to stop asking whether the substation caused every injury and start asking, why this team keeps living the same injury story every single year? One bad injury season is unfortunate. Repeated injury seasons become an organizational pattern. And patterns deserve an independent investigation. You can clear the substation concern, but you still have to explain the pattern because you cannot keep calling it bad luck when it becomes a part of the team and the organization's identity. And it's part of their identity now. When people think about the 49ers, yeah, they're talented. Yeah, they have a chance to win the Super Bowl. But more than likely, they'll suffer some big injuries that they won't be able to overcome because they don't have the depth. That's what people are saying around the league.
But here's my thing. I don't call it bad luck. I call it football. Bosa tears his ACL playing football. George Kittle tore his Achilles playing football, right? Deshaun Stribling tweaked his hamstring, young player in his first NFL camp, playing football. Kaline Black strained his adductor playing football. Bad luck is when the scoreboard falls on you. All right. Bad luck is when you drop a weight on your foot. Guys getting hurt playing football, to me, is guys getting hurt playing football.
But those seem like 95% soft tissue injuries. So when you talk about that substation and you think about the frequencies that thing emits, conspiracy theorists would say a lot of soft tissue injuries come from those high frequencies and being so close to the substation. We're not talking broken bones. We're talking soft tissue. And then they bring in people that are supposed to be experts at preventing soft tissue injuries, and they continue to pile up.
But soft tissue injuries are a part of sports, particularly a part of football. You look at every NFL roster right now as we record this, all right? We're still in the beginning stages of training camp. You look at their roster, and I guarantee you will have the same number of guys dealing with soft tissue injuries.
You don't think the 49ers would be significantly higher when you look at the data? If you look over the last 5-10 years of soft tissue injuries that they've occurred, you don't think that they would be at the top?
They might be at the top.
I think they might be at the top.
But I didn't finish my point. They might be at the top. See, here's the thing. I don't know. They might be at the top, but I guarantee you, if they are at the top, they're not at the top by themselves. They might be at the top, and I guarantee you that there's another team right behind them by a small amount, whatever metric you want to use, by a percentage point, by a number of players, what have you. So, yeah, I'll agree with you that they have a lot. I don't think, in my estimation, they have an overwhelming number more than the next team or the next 2 or 3 teams behind them.
Well, we can agree to disagree on that.
Or we could just look it up.
Lead into our fifth segment, and we're talking about injuries. Kyle Shanahan suffered some severe injuries with a concussion. But why are they treating Kyle Shanahan like the Godfather? Why was Kyle Shanahan's serious car accident kept from the public, and would a player have received the same protection?
Why are they treating him like the Godfather?
Yeah, you've seen The
Okay.
Godfather, right?
Oh, of
Number 1, 2,
course.
and 3.
Well, 1 and 2 are cinematic classics. The third we don't talk about. Um, why they're treating him like the Godfather? Because he is the Godfather. That's why. Why was there secrecy surrounding this? Because they could get away with secrecy surrounding this. To me, I don't trip on it. I really don't. If there's no malfeasance, all right, no drug or alcohol involved, and the Palo Alto police say that both parties, Kyle Shanahan was responsible for the accident, but no drugs or alcohol were involved. It seems as though the victim in the accident does not want any publicity. Obviously, the Niners want as little publicity about this, even though it's already out there. They want as little publicity as possible. It is in their best interest to not say anything until they had to. Like I said, I didn't trip on it then. I don't trip on it now.
If it's not about drugs or alcohol, or he wasn't doing anything illegal, then it should have came out immediately. And this is not about invading his privacy. It is about whether the 49ers have one standard for players and another for the most powerful coach in the building. When a player is involved in a DUI, domestic violence investigation, or a serious car accident, the story usually moves immediately. Every detail gets reported. Every decision gets questioned. Every mistake becomes public. But with Shanahan, the public had to wait. So who decided that the story stayed quiet? Was that privacy or protection? And here is the media question nobody wants to ask. If a reporter had broken this story immediately, would the reporter have risked losing access to the 49ers? This is how access journalism becomes dangerous. Reporters start protecting the relationship instead of challenging the organization. And when powerful people stop receiving hard questions, accountability disappears. Shanahan suffered a severe concussion and a major physical injuries. Would a player have received the same privacy, the same patience, and the same protection? If I were a player, every detail would be on full blast for the public, and every question would be fair game. This is not about attacking Kyle Shanahan. It is about ending the double standard. And that's what they have over there, a double standard. This should have been reported immediately so that the public knows you're a famous individual. You're in charge and you're the leader of men in that building. They should know because they have worries and they are concerned for your well-being. And it just seems like some shady business to me.
A couple of things here. No one knew about this until the day before, and I think they announced the news last Saturday. Yes, it was last Saturday. No one knew anything about this until Friday afternoon. So the idea that information was being that the media knew about it and information was being withheld because they were afraid of upsetting the 49ers. This is not the case. All right. Secondly, I think if other teams were in this position where the coach got into an accident, a serious accident, I believe that they would have behaved the exact same way.
So is there 2 weeks? They would have withheld it for 2 weeks, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well,
what's the point if he wasn't doing anything illegal?
But you're right. But what's the point of telling it until you feel comfortable telling it?
What if he would have died? What if something catastrophic would have happened? Then you report it?
That's different. Like that's different. A death is different. But
paralyzed. If he was paralyzed, would they have reported it?
Well, you know what? Probably not. Until they were ready to get that information. See, to me, I don't understand what's the difference between knowing the day that it happened or 2 weeks later. What's the difference?
What if it was Fred Warner that got in a car accident? Would they have reported it immediately?
But what's the difference? See, to me, I don't care when I find out.
That's the double standard that we're talking about.
I'm not denying that there is a double standard. But what's the difference whether it's Kyle Shanahan, Fred Warner, or Sourdough Sam? What's the difference in finding out the moment it happens or 2 weeks later?
There's no difference, but you're a public figure, and normally when public figures get into anything of this sort, it is immediately reported because the police have to take a police report, put down the name Kyle Shanahan. It goes into the public register, and then anybody who's looking for that information can pull it up.
But so every day we should type in various Niners names into
most of the journalists in
public
that
database.
area, they're doing that every day.
No, nobody
Trying
every day
to
is
break the hottest story.
No, nobody's typing Kyle Shanahan's name into police databases every single day to find out whether he got into trouble. That just
somebody
doesn't
at the
happen.
police station is going to see Kyle Shanahan's name come across. They're going to tell somebody that's going to tell somebody, and the story's going to get out.
I see now. That's where we get into it. Okay, the Palo Alto police didn't do that because you shouldn't do that. All right? It's not the police's job to inform the media, hey, something happened to a powerful and famous person. You might want to get on that. All right? So if you're not typing in Kyle Shanahan or anybody's name just to use this term, into a police database every single day, and the police are doing their job by not leaking personal information, then how are you supposed to find this stuff out? Now, if somebody were to say, and I'll just put myself in the situation, hey, Rod, man, I was driving down the street, and I could have sworn I saw Kyle Shanahan getting out of a car that was in a serious accident. Man, have you heard about this? Maybe Rod B would have put on his journalism hat and did a little sleuthing. And then if I find out about it, it's up to me to decide whether I want to disseminate this information or whether I want to pass it along to someone else and let them do the investigating. But if there is none of that, and there seem to be, like, you haven't heard of any eyewitness coming forward saying, yeah, I saw the accident. You haven't heard, how often does that happen? Where an accident, and not speaking ill of the dead, okay? When Aldon Smith had his accident before practice, I was working at KNBR. We had people calling us that morning saying, I just saw Aldon Smith get into an accident in San Jose at 7:30 in the morning. It looks like he was on his way to practice. That didn't happen with Kyle Shanahan. So, to me, I just don't trip on when we get that information. But is there a double standard? Absolutely. But life is full of double standards. That's just the way it works.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It's a double standard, and it happens a lot. It just shows you how much power and control the 49ers organization have over the Palo Alto Police Department and the media in the Bay Area. That's what it tells me.
I know enough media dudes that they would have gleefully reported that information.
And then you would have been banned from any 49ers events moving forward.
Listen, there's a bunch of dudes that the Niners want to ban, and they don't do that because they know it's a bad look. They're not going to do that unless you really do something untoward. And if someone would have had that Kyle Shanahan information and reported it with the facts, they would have had no leg to stand on to ban that person. That would have made the situation worse. And we talk about, well, wow, what do the Niners have? It seems like they have something to hide. If a reporter in this hypothetical situation had gotten that Kyle Shanahan information and reported it accurately, and then they would have banned the reporter from covering the team, that would have informed people that they were trying to cover up something nefarious.
We'll never know because nobody reported it. They listened to what they were told, and they fell in line. So,
listen, Kyle Shanahan's going to have to answer some questions because he's going to have to face the media when he eventually returns to full-time duty as coach. And I will say this, just being out there at camp, so last Monday was the first kind of full day of camp. Kyle Shanahan, because he's got a concussion and all the sensitivity that comes with that to light and sound and what have you, he was standing way, 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 way far away observing observing practices. Seeing Kyle Shanahan yesterday, he was like 15 yards off of the line of scrimmage as they were going through installs and going through drills. So he's literally creeping closer and closer and closer to the action. I don't know if he's going to – I don't think, in my estimation, he's going to coach in the first preseason game. I don't know if he coaches in any of them. I'd be damn surprised if he's not coaching the first game of the season in Australia.
No, it's going to be damn near impossible to keep him away from playing the LA Rams in Melbourne, Australia, knowing how important that game is. Moving on to our sixth segment of the day. And I know you didn't want to talk about this guy ever again. And as I've been thinking about it, with the injuries to Christian Kirk and Ricky Pearsall, and just thinking about what could have been And if you add Brandon Ayuk back into the fold, what would that do to the 49ers offense and their downfield passing game? Should the 49ers bring back Brandon Ayuk?
I think this is going to be our shortest segment. No.
They absolutely should bring him back. A year and a half ago, Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall were supposed to be Brock Purdy's downfield targets. Now, neither one of them are available. So the 49ers can protect their pride or protect their season. Ayuk knows the offense. He has chemistry with Brock. And this team needs a proven receiver. Both sides have to do their part. You put Brandon, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and ownership in one room. No leaks, no social media shots, no ego. Restore the guarantees. Build a clear return plan. Get your playmaker back in the building. Because the biggest opponent is not Seattle or the Rams. It's ego. Contracts can be repaired, but pride can cost you a Super Bowl. You don't agree with that? If Brandon comes in, Brandon Ayuk comes in, everything is put on the table. Both sides own their part of the dysfunction. They get a clear plan. Brandon Ayuk shows up and he's a model citizen. You put him on the opposite side of Mike Evans. You got the playmaker in Deebo Samuel. You got Christian McCaffrey doing his thing in the backfield. You got George Kittle healthy. You don't think that this is the best offense in the league if you can find a way to bring back Brandon Ayuk?
No. Mike Evans, Deshaun Stribling, Christian Kirk when he gets healthy. What you get out of Deebo, sprinkle in some Jacob Cowing. I don't care.
I don't know about that.
I know. I said I'm all of those guys. All right, that's the wide receiver room I'm rocking with. I just no.
Right, shortest segment. Shortest segment.
I mean, I'm not trying to impede Stribling's progress by appeasing Brandon Ayuk and scratching that itch, if that itch is even there to be scratched. No, man.
Stribling, Brandon Ayuk, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, all on the same offense, all with the same mission. I think that's a very dangerous group of skill players, but I get what you're saying.
How do we know that Brandon Ayuk is on that mission?
He doesn't have another opportunity. He doesn't have a leg to stand on.
But do you think, Deebo, not that the situation was similar or not that it was that different, Deebo looked around and realized he didn't and got in the lab. Do you get a sense that Brandon Ayuk is in the lab? Nope, I don't.
I think Brandon Ayuk is in the lab. He's just not posting it on social media because you would be a fool not to be.
Yeah, but he posts everything else on social media.
I know. So he's doing it in the dark. He's doing his training in the dark. You would be a fool, a literal fool, to post so much BS on social media and not be in top peak condition.
I miss the days when dudes would work out in their driveway and have the media watch him like T.O. did when he was with the Eagles. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. I don't need to see all that other nonsense.
Well, I'll get you there. Let's move on to our next segment. Yeah, you said that was going to be our short, as it was. Moving on to segment 7. How will Raheem Morris change this defense? Now, you've been to practice, so you can give us the best analysis.
I want to start here, and pardon me for looking down reading here, but accuracy is important as far as I'm concerned with this. I want to start with your boy Jair Brown, who spoke to the media yesterday. And he said something that I thought was, quite frankly, fascinating when he was asked about Raheem Morris. And I'm going to read the quote. Raheem is dope. He wants football players. Previous schemes, we've been in haven't wanted that. Raheem wants you to play football. He wants players with instinct. He wants players who can get out there and play ball and read the quarterback. He also went on to say, that's my game. When I'm allowed to read the quarterback and go on instincts, I'm paraphrasing here, no longer reading the quote, Jair Brown said he feels free and he feels like that's his best game. Now, a lot of people were saying, well, that's, of course, Jair Brown would say that. Didn't have the greatest year last year. He's, fighting for a contract in a contract year, wants to, he would be very praiseworthy of his new defensive boss. But here's the trick. Jair Brown's not the only one saying that Raheem Morris allows him to play free in the defensive backfield. Ronaldo Green said the exact same thing. Deamador Lenore, I was in the room when he said it, said the exact same thing. So it seems to me that the DBs are really feeling what Raheem Morris is giving them as far as how he wants them to play and how they want to play. And it makes sense because Raheem Morris played safety. Raheem Morris is a defensive backs coach by trade. He did it in college. He did it in Tampa and in Washington and with the Atlanta Falcons. And it seems like all of those guys I mentioned and others like Stout and Siegel and the rest of those cats, they seem to be thriving so far early in camp in how Raheem Morris wants his defensive backfield to read and react, and they just feel free in that type of play.
Sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me. I tell you that. Sounds like you just want to be undisciplined and do your own thing. Even when we played for Vic Fangio wanted instincts, but it wasn't at the top of the chart. You want smart players. You want tough players. You want guys that give effort. You want guys that can tackle well. You want guys that understand the game of football, that's good with their technique, that's efficient with their footwork. And then you'll put instincts in there. Of course you want instinctual football players. Who wouldn't? You don't want robots out there. So I just look at it as a bunch of bullshit. And another thing is, when you're playing against the same offensive philosophy each and every day, and you know what the install is in for the defense, and you know that they have to, on the offensive side of the ball, put the coverage beater in, it's easier to predict what's coming. You're not going to get that week 1 versus the LA Rams. They're going to come after your ass, and we're going to see how well those instincts help you versus Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Let's see. So I don't want to hear that gibberish bullshit. And the old 49ers defense wanted to beat you with 4. Morris wants quarterbacks guessing where the 4th and the 5th rusher comes from.
Yeah, it's been big talk this camp. Yeah.
5-man fronts create one-on-one matchups. Disguise coverages slow quarterbacks processing. But here's my concern. 5-man fronts can mean more single high coverage and more pressure on the cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Until they prove otherwise, I do not believe the 49ers have enough true cover corners for that style. And Raheem Morris has never built a top 10 defense from scratch. So I have to see it before I believe it. The scheme can create pressure and takeaways, but if the corners cannot hold up, all that disguise turn into explosive plays. This defense is not just changing personnel, it is changing its identity. And it takes longer than 6 months to change your true identity and know if the defense is going to work. When the live bullets start on Sundays, and you start to have to remember, what call do I make? What communication we're supposed to make? And you give up in explosive plays, I do not want to hear, it's just our first year in the defense. But it sounds like that's what's starting to brew for them.
A lot of pressure on Lenore and Green. And here's what I'll say, not in their defense because they don't need me to defend them. But here's what I'll say for them. They don't need me talking for them either, but you get my point, is that they fully understand the pressure that they're under. And now whether they will be able to hold up under that pressure, it remains to be seen. I will give them the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. But acknowledgement of the pressure, I've always been the type of person to me like, okay, that's a big first step because there are a lot of cats who don't acknowledge that pressure. Either because they don't think it's there or because they don't want to acknowledge it because, they're afraid of the pressure. So I will give them credit for that start. Let's see where it goes. I think Lenore in particular, while Green is fighting for a job with Jack Jones, I think Lenore understands that he's got to be the tip of the spear and he's the leader, and I give him credit for that. But here's what I want to ask you, and I mentioned these two cats early because, it's Stevie Wonder could see how these dudes are just ruling camp right now on the defensive side of the ball. Fred Warner has just been an absolute maniac in every single practice, all right? He started a brawl the first day in bad head practice, and Dre Greenlaw, every single person, offensively and defensively, said it's good to have our bully back. That's what they call him. With Fred and Dre, they play the entire season. With those two guys doing their jobs, will that make it easier, for lack of a better word, to use for the DBs to go out there and cover, or is that just not part of the process at all?
That's not part of the process at all for the defensive backs. Part of the process for the defensive backs and the guys that make it easier is the defensive line getting consistent pressure.
Sure.
And part of the job for the defensive tackles is to keep those guys clean so that they can make a major impact in the run game. So the linebackers have nothing to do with the defensive backs back there, but they do set the standard, they do
Right.
set the tone, and that's what you expect from your linebackers. Similarly, we had Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis that set the tone. It gives you another added step and boost of confidence when you see these guys running sideline to sideline, making plays and knocking helmets off. So I do think that's where they can take some of that energy is from when they see those guys in front of them make a play. They're like, "Ooh, I'm going to make a play now."
Let me interject here real quick. When Fred went down last year, and again, it's not that the safeties were world beaters before Fred went down, but when he went down last year, safety play dropped because we talked about this. Fred was responsible for getting everybody in the right place. Again, a full season of Fred Warner getting everybody in the right place. That has no bearing on what happens behind him.
Where you lose accountability. When you have a young Mike linebacker in there and you can misfit a gap or you can miss somebody in coverage or you could turn somebody loose in coverage, that young middle linebacker isn't going to come and ask you, "Hey, man, what the hell are you doing?" That's what Fred does. When you give up a play, when you're not in your proper run gap, he's going to ask you about it and tell you about it. If that happens again, we're going to have to get you off the field and onto the sideline. So that's where he can help. But as far as those guys making plays, being in the proper angles, making plays on the football, not giving up explosive plays, it's only after the fact that Fred can say something, not before.
The idea of Fred Warner getting you in the right place by chewing you out because you weren't in the right place before is hilarious to me.
That's what it's called being a coach on the field. You don't wait for his position coach or the defensive coordinator to say something to him. I'm going to say something to you. And Patrick Willis, he was the same way. Justin Smith, he was the same way. And moving on to the defensive line.
Yeah, man.
Is Nick Bosa really 100%? And is Renardo Green a true number one corner?
Well, let me start with the latter. I mean, Lenore's the number one corner. All Green's got to do just be the
But the
dude
praise
on the
that
other
I've been
side.
hearing out of camp is that Renardo Green has been performing like their best corner.
I mean, he's performed well. To me, that's the Amador Lenore spot.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything that's crazy, and I also don't get a sense that Renardo Green is necessarily coming for that spot. I mean, to me,
Why wouldn't he?
Well,
They're giving out bags for the number one corner
well,
now.
that's a very good point.
Like, why wouldn't you be wanting to be the number one corner on your team?
To me, I think you get that bag if you just slot yourself behind the Amador Lenore. All right, let him lead. You worry about your job, and then you'll get that bag, and maybe be the number one down the road. Bosa has yet to participate in any team activities. I've seen him do a couple of when they did one-on-ones, offensive versus defensive line, the first day in padded practice. Did a couple and looked like Nick Bosa to me. And then he went off onto the side and worked with Trent Williams for a little while. That was fun to watch. You see him, you see him out there. You see him doing drills. But as far as him actually in team periods, none of that yet. I understand why they're being cautious, but it's hard to evaluate when you haven't seen him do anything. But the way he looks and the way he's moving, look like he's ready to go to me.
With Bosa cleared to practice does not mean ready to dominate. He is coming off another major knee injury. The team is still ramping him up. And if that right leg still lacks full size, strength, and symmetry, the 49ers cannot rush him out there just because the defensive line needs help.
Mm-hmm.
You have to manage his workload early. San Francisco does not need Bosa to win August. They need him healthy in December. Now, Ricardo Green, the camp praise, is encouraging. But becoming a number one corner is not about winning camp. It's about covering the opponent's best receiver on Sundays and making a quarterback stop targeting you. More system may help him, but the next step has to show up when the games count. Health and hype are not the same as Sunday production. And that goes for Bosa and that goes for Green. There's a lot of hype around both of them. Everything I hear come out of the 49ers organization after training camp practices is all positive, and we know that that's bullshit. There's some things that go on out there that aren't perfect. There's some things that go on out there that they want to correct, but they're sending the message to the public as they're taught in those meeting rooms. Praise your teammates. Always talk positive about your teammates. Never talk negative about them. So I understand it. I've been in those meetings too. I've been coached by those same type of coaches. But it doesn't really matter until you show up and do it consistently on Sundays. And that goes for Bosa and that goes for Bernardo Green. Leads into our 9th segment of the day. Do the 49ers need another defensive lineman?
In particular, I mean, shit. He looked good in a lot of uniforms because he is that good, but he looked particularly good in a Niner uniform because he is that good, and he's a Bay dude. Veta Vea is always, since he's coming to the league, has been one of my favorite football players. Veta Vea in the middle of that Niner defensive line next to Odigizua, who, by the way, you want to talk about somebody who flashes and you see a difference maker, cat's legit. Those two dudes next to each other, I'd sell out for Veta Vea. He is, and I know they're not going to do it because the upcoming draft is thought to be a really good one at the top. You want your first round picks, but boy, Veta Vea is that dude, man. I mean, that is when you talk about on your football wish list, Veta Vea in the middle of that Niner defensive line, number one on that wish list.
Romello Height may help as a rotational rusher, but he cannot hold up versus NFL tackles for an entire season. Joey Bosa gives you veteran edge talent, but he also brings another injury concern. Veta Vea immediately changes the run defense and protects the linebackers. The question is cost, salary, draft capital, and long-term flexibility. This team does not need another headline. It needs a healthy, dependable defensive lineman who can set the edge, penetrate, stop the run, and is available in December. So I think if there's some guys out there that you don't have to give up a lot for, you bring them in. But when you talk about Veta Vea, you're going to have to give up a lot for him.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to pay him. That's the reason why he's having the issues with Tampa Bay right now. And, you know, the numbers that I've been seeing from the defensive tackles that's getting paid, I don't know if the 49ers want to pay it, especially after bringing in C.J. West, bringing in Alfred Collins.
Yeah.
What's his name? Iggy
Osa Odigizua.
Odizowizi.
No, Odigizua.
However you say his name. After they
you're going to be saying it when you watch him.
I'm going to be saying it when you watch it, but I got to get used to it. I got to get familiar with the name. But when you bring those three guys in, I think that Veta Vea is off the table.
Yeah. Like I said, he's wish list material. I don't really pay much attention to salary caps. But the Niners have money if they decided to do that. But mainly it's draft capital, and I don't see the Niners wanting to do that. What you hope is that he doesn't end up in Seattle, which has had a bit of a talent drain as far as their defensive line is concerned coming off that Super Bowl. You don't want Veta Vea to be a part of that defensive line. And you damn sure don't want him to be a part of the Rams, which I don't think the Rams would be interested. But then again, you never know. I got to say this, though, dog. Couple 3 shows ago, you was talking about Romello Height having double-digit sacks. Now you're saying today you don't think he's going to be able to hold up against tackles? Well,
when I heard that he missed practice with cramps, and I know how easy these practices are nowadays.
It was his first practice.
And now he's dealing with an elbow injury, and he's looking slight in body frame. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up. He might be able to get double-digit sacks. That's why I said rotational pass rusher. But when we talk about first and second down, and you talk about Seattle and the L.A. Rams that's going to load up and run that goddamn ball at you
yeah.
And at the weakness on that defensive line, he ain't holding up versus the run game, dog. I'm telling you that right now.
I got to say, and obviously it's just camp. When he's not dealing with Trent Williams, you could see the vision. All right. You see the quickness. You can see, the spin moves. You can see all of that stuff. You can see the vision. What I found to be hilarious when it happens, and it only just happened maybe 5 times in, the 5 practices I've seen, when he has to go up against Trent Williams. And I don't mean this in a negative. I'm just trying to bring the visual to light. It looks like Trent Williams is playing with a toddler. Remember how you play with, like, when a toddler's rushing at you and they thinking they got you, and you just stick your hand out, and all of a sudden the toddler's like, you got me. I can't move. Romello Height will run into Trent Williams, and Trent's like, nah. It's just, and he'll try a spin move. Trent's like, you can try that all you want to. It's not going to work. But then you see Height on the other side, or you see him dealing with somebody on the left side who's not Trent Williams. And you're like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. Trent Williams is just, and again, you want to talk about it again. It's always camp. We're always being positive. But somebody who looks good, Trent Williams looks like he's having some fun in a camp. I think he knows is going to be one of his last 2 or 3 in his career.
So when you think about starting offensive left tackles in the National Football League, it's one of the highest paid positions. How do you think they're going to look at him?
I don't.
How do you think offensive coordinators are going to look at him when it comes to that run game and being able to set the edge?
No.
They're going to be laughing at this guy on tape. So I think that he'll be a rotational pass rusher until he bulks up a bit. And then you got to put him in only obvious pass situations where you can run games. You can stand him in the middle. You can put him on the left. You can put him on the right. And I still think he's going to get double-digit sacks if they can stop the run at a high level. Now, getting into our last topic, Rod, and this is about the 49ers' first opponent of the season. Why are the Rams' veteran stars described as experienced while the 49ers are constantly being labeled old?
Well,
because they got old dudes over there too. 38-year-olds, 33-year-olds, 30-year-olds.
How old is wide receiver? I'm blanking on his name.
Devontae Adams, 33 years old.
33. Well, that's a good question. My guess is that the Niners have more guys who are old than the Rams have who are old. I mean, when you're starting left tackle is closing in on 40. Christian McCaffrey is 32. I might be aging him. Sorry, Christian.
I think he's 30.
Okay, 30. Yeah. Apologies, Christian.
Same age as Myles Garrett.
Fred Warner. It just seems like the Niners just seem to have more dudes who are high 20s, low 30s, closing in on 40 than the Rams do. But I don't know. It's just perception, I guess.
Stafford is 38 with a history of back issues that can flare up at any moment. Devontae Adams is 33 with a history of hamstring issues. Myles Garrett is not a young pup. He is 30. He looks the part. He trains hard, but he's dealing with lower body issues. Maybe Cleveland knew something the rest of us did not. And Aaron Donald is talking about a return, but he is 35 and will soon be 36. So stop pretending the Rams are young. They are old too. The difference is how the story gets told. When the Rams have veterans, it is called experience. When the 49ers have veterans, it is called decline. The Rams are not young. They are simply being given a different narrative. That's why. Matthew Stafford had to get injections in his back so that he could play, have elbow issues. Devontae Adams barely made it through the season last year with his hamstring issues, and his hamstring issues have been in consistent years. Then you throw in Myles Garrett and you say, okay, he's only 30, so why are they trying to protect him and say that he's having lower body issues, which is why he's been out of practice for 3-4 days in a row? It's because Father Time takes no prisoners. So I think that the narrative here is that the 49ers are old because they deal with so many injuries and they don't have the depth behind their star players like the LA Rams do. But if you lose Matthew Stafford, season goes to shit. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of things, and I think my original point stance here, especially as I go through this list. The Niners just have more dudes who are, by NFL metrics, old. Mike Evans, year 13. Dre Greenlaw, year 8. McCaffrey, year 10. Demarcus Robinson, year 11. I didn't even know that. Deebo, year 8. Trent Williams, year 17. George Kittle, year 10. Who am I missing? I'm missing Fred Warner. How many
Byron
years?
Young for the LA Rams. He isn't young. He's like 29, 28 years old as well.
For Fred Warner. The Rams have some dudes who are, again, by NFL metrics, old. They don't have as many as the Niners do. And by the way, we were talking about all the injuries the Niners are dealing with. You just detailed all the injuries or the injury history of those Rams players. Is it the substation? Is it poor training staff care? What is it? I think
the
it goes back to
availability of those stars. Their stars have had availability. The 49ers stars have not had much availability. Even the previous year, Christian McCaffrey missed the majority of the season. Remember that?
That's why I hesitated. That's why I didn't disagree with you. But my point that I made earlier is that while the Niners may be at the top of number of injured players or whatever percentage you want to use in terms of time missed, are they number one by a bullet? Are they number one by a bunch before you get to 2, 3, and 4 in terms of the teams that are oft injured? I just don't think the Niners, if they are number one, and they probably are that much farther away in those numbers that I mentioned, away from the second, third, and fourth team on that list. Everybody's got problems because it's football. It's a hard sport. Dudes get injured. Soft tissues get disrupted. Ligaments get tore. Bones get broken. It's football. Shit happens.
And it's all about how you manage those problems.
There
and it
you
takes
go.
a little bit of luck.
There you go.
And I think that'll do it for episode 48 of the Grit Code Podcast. It's good to be back, Rod.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you had a great vacation. Now here's football season.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for this. Make sure you guys out there follow and subscribe on X, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, Apple. And always remember, for myself and Mr. Rod Brooks, it's not just a code, it's a way of life.